This video is about keeping your flat port for your water housing clear from water drops. So there is a few different techniques that people use to do this, and I only really use one of them personally. So I'm going to talk you through that one, and then I'm going to reference the others, and I'll put some links below this video course for some resources that you can look at for people who use the other methods, so you can learn about those as well. By all means, try them out. You might find that they're more suitable for you. This is the one that works for me. So method one, I picked this one up off of the Surf Photographers United forum. I don't think it exists anymore. There might be a Facebook page or something, but there's no forum unfortunately anymore. But at the time, Mike Wagner, who is an experienced surf photographer and designer of Essex water housings, I believe he's retired. I'm not sure if you can get a new Essex water housings, but you might see if you're out there. He came up, he wrote in the forum, and he explained this method in detail, and I've been using it ever since. This must have been, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and it works for me better than any other method I've tried. And because it works, I haven't really tried many others. So step one, get your lens port, get it all on, get everything in your water housing all sorted. You get to the edge of the water. Now you need to get some natural oil from your skin. Sounds a bit gross. I'll talk to you about the wet port system, which is even grosser in my opinion, for dome ports later. But for this system, you need a bit of natural oil. So if you live in a climate like the UK, where it's not, most of my surf photography is not done in blazing sunshine. I don't have zinc on my face. I don't have lots of sun cream on my hands and things like that. So I find it's pretty easy to do that. I have shot in Indonesia and Samoa and various other hot places where you're covered in sun cream, and it does make this harder. So that's one factor to consider. So here's how I do it. I go get my finger, and sometimes I'm going in behind my wetsuit hood if it's winter, and I rub behind my ears. I find that's a good place to get some nice oil. And then you just rub that oil onto the lens port with your finger, and I just do it in horizontal stripes, go up and down a couple of times, and you can kind of see it because any water that's on there will kind of bead up into droplets. So do that a couple of times, and then you put the whole housing with the port under the water, so the water goes up and down, and then you slowly lift it out. And it might not work first time. You might have to do a bit more rubbing. You might have to get a bit more from behind your ears or wherever beside your nose perhaps. So you've done that, then you lift it out slowly, and it'll be free from water. You won't see any water drops on there. Now you do have to keep an eye on it. If it's an offshore day and you're getting spray back from the waves every time, then the spray is going to hit there. But you should just be able to dip it under and lift it out again nice and gently, and it should just sheet off, and you'll have a nice clear port to shoot through. You might need to reapply that oil after a bit. And I found that works surprisingly well. You might find, like I say, if you've got sun cream and things, it becomes difficult. You don't want sun cream smeared on there. That's going to cause problems. But I found that's the best one. And if you're stuck at the beach and you don't have any of the other kit that you might need to do any of the other techniques, which I'll run through soon, then this one, at least you've always got, hopefully, some sort of oil around that you can use to do that with. So yeah, a little bit gross, but it does work. I've used it for years, and I definitely find it's convenient. I never forget it. It's always handy. So that's one thing to try if you're having problems with a flat port with any water drops. Really quick insert to here. If you've got a GoPro, they've all, if you're not using a dome port for your GoPro, that is, they've got flat ports on them, but I don't use this technique on a GoPro. I use the wet port technique on a GoPro, so I'll go through that and you'll find out what that is in the next video. So that's my technique / Mike Wagner's technique that I borrowed and have used since then. And I know other people do it. I'll go through, like I say, underneath there'll be some resources, so you can see that it is a legit technique, I promise. I'm not messing with you. That is a good way of doing it. Next technique that I know of that I haven't tried is using wax. So you can get some candle wax. I've heard surf wax as well, but again, haven't done it myself. And you kind of do a little crisscross pattern with the wax, and then you rub that in with a cloth. you get a nice kind of buff it out basically, and then that essentially does a similar thing. It leaves a layer. What you want on there is a kind of hydrophobic layer which prevents water sticking to it and lets the water just drop off. But naturally you want that to be as clear as possible because you don't want to have a murky photo when you shoot through your lens port. So that's one that's again really popular, and I'll link to a video below by Aquatech where they talk through that in detail and show you exactly how to do that, which I think is a great resource if that's what the route you want to go down. Then another one that people use is a squeegee. So just like you would use on your windows when you're cleaning them. So people have little ones. There's a great video of Ray Collins, famous Australian surf photographer. He's shooting in Australia, and you can actually see him use it at one point. I'll find a link to that one below. But basically, the way I've done it before is I bought a little cheap squeegee, and I trimmed it so it was just like credit card sized, and then I put a little hole in it and looped that through my leash that I wear for my housing, and then you just squeegee the water off. I couldn't get it to work properly for me. It never worked really easily. I don't think I really spent the time doing it, and I probably didn't have exactly the right squeegee. Or I think if you get on with it, I'd really love to hear which squeegee you're using, because I will try again. But for me, it didn't work as effectively as just the normal oil. So I quit doing that, and I just use the natural oil for my flat port, dry port technique. So those are the few techniques you can use. See how you go. And if you've got a dome port, don't use any of those techniques. You want to use the wet port technique, and I'll go through that with you in the next video.